All right, welcome to the Day is Ours channel. I'm your host, Johnny Utah.
And I'm your co-host, Damon, the Chap and the Cat.
All right, so welcome. This is week 2 officially, so episode 2. And today we're going to go over a few different topics here for you guys. So the first thing I have here for you guys is we're going to go over our diet. So last week we talked about our motivation, kind of like the mental health side of things. Today we're going to go ahead and go over diet. And then next week we're going to go over exercise, right? We believe that all three of these topics need to be in unison. You can't just have good mental health in order to have, maintain a healthy state of body. And you can't just have diet or exercise. It has to be a combination of the two. So, and really just a combination of all three. So today's focus, we're going to focus on diet. And I'll go first. So I'll go ahead and lead off here in terms of diet strategy. So, and it's not even really that much of a diet. It's more of just a lifestyle change. Because the biggest thing, at least for me, and I'll have Damien go over like his experience and his side of things as well. But for me personally, it's not what I was eating; it was a volume content, right? If I were to have eggs, I would have like 6 eggs. If I were to have grilled cheese or something, I would have where normally pretty decent serving is probably like 1 grilled cheese sandwich. I'd find myself like, I'd snack on 1, eat 1, and I'd go to 2, and then I'd go to 3, and all of a sudden I've had 4 grilled cheese sandwiches, and it's just volume. It was just completely volume for me. And when you're stress eating, when you have like anxiety, if you suffer from this, you basically understand the volume that you put in, it adds up. And Damien and I both track our calorie intake, not necessarily because we care about the calories, but more of the perspective that when you just eat a lot of food, you have a lot of food volume. It adds up. It really does. I think my example of this is like going to the grocery store and you have a checklist, right? Everybody has a checklist of what they have, what they're going to the grocery store to get. You're like, okay, I'm going to spend about $100. I'm going to get milk, eggs, bread, all the normal things. And all of a sudden we're shopping through the store. We're like, oh, that looks good. I want to try that. And then you find something else like, ooh, this game just came out. Okay, let me get this here as well. And by the time you hit checkout, you had a budget goal of $100, but now your checkout number says $217. Food is just literally the exact same thing, right? You have your morning lunch, you have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have some snacks in between. And if you're just not watching your food intake, you're going to eat a lot more. And that's what's the purpose of us really just monitoring our calories, because, and Damien will go over this himself, but like when you're looking at the numbers, like for me and for Damien, like we'd be looking at our breakfast numbers and we've actually eaten already twice the calories that we've had that we should be having in a day in just one meal. And that is not healthy. It's just plain is not healthy. And if you do that, times 3, right? Lunch, dinner, and you have snacks all in between, all of a sudden your food intake is not for yourself. It's like for 3 or 4, 5 people. And that is what's led to my weight gain. Because if I'm just eating that much volume, it doesn't matter how much I exercise. I'm not going to exercise 6,000 calories of intake away, even if I were working out like crazy. And so now I'll drop it off here to Damien so he can kind of explain his side of, the diet side of things and, food intake.
So it's not just calorie volume, just food volume, it's also calorie density. Because it's really surprising how much food actually is, not just in terms of just, it's the this meal is like 300 calories, 400 calories, whatever, but the size of it, if you actually look at the serving sizes, this is actually something Brian Reagan brought up decades ago, that like a serving size for his favorite treat, Fig Newtons, 2 cookies. How often do you just say, I'm going to eat 2 of any cookie? That's, again, say Oreo. How many Oreos? Are you going to really stop at the serving size of 2 or 3 cookies? No, because I never did. I'm certain many of you, if not every one of you hearing this, would do that. But the only real trick that my doctor ever actually prescribed, not a diet or any fad like that, but just downloading a fitness app that was more about just keeping a food diary. And not even like sticking to, okay, the recommended calorie intake, but more so just to observe, just to watch. And me noticing I'm eating for 4 adults a day starting off. I was eating for myself, I was eating whatever my kids didn't finish eating, whatever my wife wasn't finishing eating, and easily going for seconds or sometimes thirds at a time. And to go from, again, eating for 4, for only eating for myself, that's how I was able to drop so much weight so fast, was just that great shift and change. But being able to keep that consistency of not just, okay, I'm losing weight progressively, but actually giving your body time to adjust, because everything in moderation. Losing weight can be a good thing if you're morbidly obese, if you're very much on death's door. But it's also too much in the other way, where if you're not eating enough, it's not sustainable short-term or long-term. But a genuine tip that I would proclaim to anybody who can hear me, who's actually paying attention to this, is the calorie density of things. For example, 200 calories. Let's start off there. 200 calories. Easy snack. 1 serving, say, like of a protein bar, definitely has a more focus on the macronutrient of protein. Or 2, say, again, the 2-3 Oreos. Delicious treat, but not sufficient enough. Or, say, 200 calories worth of, say, watermelon. That's enough that if you're not used to eating that much watermelon, could genuinely make you actually eat yourself sick. That's a lot of fruit, and especially a lot of water being hydrated just in that one treat. And yet, all 3 of those at or just barely under 200 calories. The 200 calories worth of watermelon definitely is going to fill up your stomach, make you feel a lot more full, a lot faster, and generally overall is health for you because it is a fruit, it is a hydrating treat, and again, overall it's still 200 calories. So, not to recommend it as, say, a meal replacement, just eat fruit, eat vegetables, all that, but just again saying, okay, if you want to feel full, to be able to say, okay, I'm done eating, I don't need to stress about, oh, I'm only supposed to have X amount of calories per meal. Look for calorie density in moderation to say, okay, I can have that treat, or if I want to have something that's a little bit more fulfilling as far as like actually feeling full. Satiety is, I believe, the word that they use for it. Just the feeling of feeling full. That trigger to say, okay, I'm done eating. That automatic sense of I'm done eating, I'm good to go for a few hours before I have my next pick-me-up. Definitely look into that as far as not just keeping an eye on what you're eating as far as calories, but also those macronutrients, but more importantly, for the volume of food that you're putting into you, will that volume actually make you feel full? So that way you can continue to actually listen to your body to be able to say, okay, I know I had X amount of calories, but I'm starving. Or I only had like half those calories, and if I eat another bite, I'm going to explode. And again, overall, just listening, understanding your body and understanding your limits, and not going too hard one way or another, finding that balance. That's really key.
And so I'll even piggyback off of that. So when you're talking about, feeling full, right? One of the biggest issues that I struggled with, and I'm actually gonna, so we're both dads here. So I'm gonna actually play off of Bluey because our kids love watching Bluey. And there's this particular episode. It's called Mr. Monkey Jocks. And the premise of this episode is that the kids have too many toys and they need to cut down on their toy limit, right? They need to separate the toys that they want to keep versus the toys they really just don't use. And at the beginning of the episode, they want to keep all the toys, right? Who doesn't, right? You have everything you want to keep all, and you want to add more to the collection. And they eventually get to this toy, Mr. Monkey Jocks, and they decide to make this toy the most special of toys. And he ends up being one of these episodes where Mr. Monkey Jocks ends up taking over the household because everyone treats him, quote unquote, specially. And by the end of the episode, Mr. Monkey Jocks wants to get rid of all the other toys because he's the only toy that should be special. And it comes to a realization that when you have everything you want, nothing feels special anymore. And I'm going to piggyback this to like how it comes to food, right? If you're just eating all that you want, whenever you want, however you want, you're eating whatever intake you want to eat of food, nothing is going to taste good. And that was one of my biggest struggles, because if I'm eating pizza, and I love pizza, or if I'm eating teriyaki chicken or spaghetti, I like to generally enjoy the food that I eat. So when you're just eating whatever you want, however you want, and you're just eating, and it doesn't taste good anymore, there's a problem. And that's going to affect you not just physically, but it's going to affect you mentally as well. You need to have some sort of discipline, because food is not going to taste good to you, and you're never going to be satisfied, and that's going to send you into a mental cycle of depression and anxiety. Because imagine if it didn't feel good to do something, right? You do something, that should be good, eating, right? Food, it should be tasty. It should be good. It should be satisfying to eat. And if you're not getting that feeling, you're going to struggle. I struggled heavily with that. And that was one of my biggest turning points, is that I'm eating my favorite foods and I'm just not enjoying them. It doesn't taste good to my tongue. And when I changed my diet around, and I was actually monitoring the calories that I was intaking, food started to taste good again. And that was like a big, big turning point. Like, that was something that was so motivating for me to continue to push even further beyond of what I was starting with, that I generally enjoy eating food. So, having food taste good again was phenomenal. It was essentially a life-changing experience to be like, oh, this tastes so good now. Whereas before, I was 270, 280, and nothing tasted good, nothing satisfied, and I was just sitting there unsatisfied and unhappy, and then becoming mentally stressed because of it. And that's not where you want to be. So now I'm going to show you, or at least tell you, what I do personally, and then Damien's going to go through his routine, because one of the cool things about what we do on this channel is I work from home. This is my desk. This is where I work from. Damien works at a distribution center, so he does manual labor. He has to plan out his meals differently than I have to plan out my meals. So I'll start first here, and then I'll have Damien go through his routine and what kind of foods that he's focusing on. So if you've been following on the Monday through Friday videos, I do my morning workout. Typically that is 6:30 to 9. And before I even start my workout, I do two things. I take vitamins, which are, the multivitamin 1 a day gummies, right? So I take my daily dosage of that. And then I also take a Celsius. Celsius is like a metabolism energy drink. I think is it carbonated water or something to that effect? It doesn't really feel carbonated in my opinion.
It's not really carbonated. It is a metabolism it is a metabolism booster drink, but it's also a energy drink replacement in the sense of it actually being more beneficial than just a stimulant.
For sure. And that's what I take in the morning because I was very unsatisfied drinking Monsters, and I drank Monster since I was like 20. Like that was like my go-to drink, and everybody has their own version of it, whether it's NOS or whether it's C4 or whatever your energy drink was. For me, it was Monsters, and they just haven't given me that pickup that I needed. And if you're doing a 2.5 hour workout, you need a pick me up. You need to get up and go, and you need to get it going. And so the Celsius works really, really well for me. A, the flavors are really, really good. And then B, I've actually been trying the packets, which are not like the canned version, but the little packets that you add into water. I'm generally not the biggest fan of packets in general. Like, you know, if you go to wherever you shop, you could see like the little packets that you mix into water, and then to me a lot of those just taste chalky, and I'm not a big chalky fan. So if it tastes chalky, then I don't want to drink it, and so that doesn't help. However, the Celsius ones, they don't taste chalky. They taste just like the regular Celsius does, and I think that's because Celsius is just generally water anyways. It just has that flavoring. That gives me the pickup that I need to do my workout. I generally don't like to actually eat food before my workout, because then if I eat food before a workout, then I feel really groggy, I feel really slow, and I don't feel very good doing the workout. So instead, after my workout, that's when I go ahead and eat my protein bar. So now my body is into recovery mode post-workout. It's going to be recovering from all the stress that I just put on there. The protein bar, it's going to have tons of essential protein in it. It's going to have fiber. It's just a really, really good pack-a-punch, quick little meal that I could eat that will make me feel full. And then just to top it off, just to make sure I feel really, really good in the morning, I have a breakfast essential. And so I'm not really picky. I do chocolate, I do vanilla, strawberry. I'm definitely far more into the strawberry and vanilla, but I'm also into saving money, so the chocolate is like the way to go if you're just trying to keep it as efficient as possible. I do the pre-mixed packets, so I don't have to worry about, you know, mixing milk with it already or finding the right milk for it. I just do the packet that's already done. Make it simple. We get it from Sam's, Costco, whichever place gives me the better deal is the route I go. But I've also tried different flavors. They have a Cinnabon one, which is amazing. They have a Fruit Loop one. They even have a Girl Scout Thin Mint one, and I'm a sucker for Thin Mint, so yes, I'm a psychopath. I like Thin Mints. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm a little ashamed, but not fully ashamed. And those are all good, right? It gives me a really, really good start. If you actually like read the label and just look at how much of the vitamins and stuff that it has in it, it's fantastic for you. A little bit higher on the sugar than I like it to be, but it's a good pick-me-up after the workout. And then from that, I feel really full. It's one of those things that will keep you really full, but it's not necessarily meant to be a meal replacement. That's why I eat the protein bar with it. And then I start work. I work 11 to 8. And then typically around, let's say like 2:30, maybe 3. I work in sales, so it just depends. It's somewhere around that time. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for lunch. I clock into my meal mode. And then that's when I am eating something typically with fruits and veggies in it. So I'm a big spinach person. Anything that has spinach or mixed greens in it, I can pretty much just make any meal that I want. So whether it's like barbacoa pork, chicken taco, anything that I could put over spinach, I'll have it over spinach. Lately, I've been on a kick where we've been doing these spinach wraps. So instead of like regular flour tortilla, they're like a spinach wrap. And to be honest, I don't really notice the difference. And that's been working really good. Make the wrap, spinach, meat. I'm not a cheese person. In general, I'm not a very big cheesy person. So I don't need cheese with anything. I'm able to count that. That's usually like a 500, 550 calorie meal. And that means that before even dinner, I'm pretty much like 700 to 800 calories. and I've eaten two really really good meals. One is to be right after workout, just like a starter meal, and then the second one is just like a regular lunch meal. When I do take breaks, if I need like maybe like a not necessarily like a protein bar, but I might do like vegetables, fruits. I'm trying to increase my volume. I'm eating carrots, broccoli, celery, grapes, bananas, apples. And so during my breaks, that's typically if I feel hungry, I'll eat one of those, right? One of those food items. And then at the end, we're all here. We all eat dinner. And so whatever dinner is, obviously we try to keep it as healthy as possible. And it's a little bit easy for me because I work from home. So I have real big access to whatever's in the fridge, and I have an hour lunch. So it's not like I'm stressed for time and making sure that, oh man, I only have X amount of time to get this going. So it gives me plenty of time to make sure I can make a healthy meal, or eat leftovers and make it a healthy version of leftovers. And really the goal is to be between 1,600 and 2,000 calories a day, but generally speaking, I'm really really good at staying between that 16 to 1,800. And there may be some days where I'm a little bit over, there may be some days where I'm a little bit lower, just depending on what I'm eating. But the reward of that has been that food tastes so much better right now. Things that I would usually scoff at, I think the reason why I scoffed at them is because nothing tasted good. And so when you're in a zone where nothing tastes good, and then all of a sudden you're trying to implement other like healthier food groups, and you're like, oh, this doesn't taste good in general. But when you have that change where you're taking a lot less consumption, when you're going from 6,000 calories or 5,000 calories a day to 2,000, food starts to taste better. And right now, a lot of the healthy stuff that I would have scoffed at before just actually taste better now because I'm not eating as much as I possibly can. So I'm now actually feeling hungry. And I think I'm not like a medical person by any means, but I think that when you feel hungry, food just generally tastes better anyways, because you're hungry enough to be like, yeah, I need to eat something. And so, Damien, I'll let you go and explain your work schedule and how you maintain your calories
So
and food
for
intake.
me, my focus is still on, again, losing weight, but at the same time, making sure I'm getting enough protein in me to be able to make sure I'm not losing muscle as well as fat as I'm working. Now, with my job, I'm moving heavy stuff all the time, whether it be pallets, boxes of food, piece of equipment, whatever it is. I'm constantly in a state of motion, but that motion doesn't always really translate well to an actual exercise. It could be just walking around. It could actually be lifting something that's 50, 60, 80 pounds, or it could be something as like 5 pounds, just constantly in and out, in and out. So for me, my focus is, again, a lot more planning out my day from the start, and ideally before I even go to bed the night before, to make sure what I do pack that I can be able to stick with. Okay, I'm only taking this with me. I'm not going to the convenience store across the way getting anything extra. I'm just sticking with whatever I pack. So I generally try to have some sort of protein bar, but again, more focused on the protein. So if I don't use a protein bar, then okay, I'm packing like say tuna or chicken, something that's more of, again, that protein boost, but also something that's a little bit sweet, that little treat, whether that be like dried fruit, whether that be fresh fruit, and just that little bit of a pick-me-up. But my start of the day, I've now started to pick up Celsius. I used to be very much a Monster a day to get me started, or even a little bit of coffee just to get me going with that little boost of caffeine. But I found out that my overall productivity at work has increased since switching over to Celsius and trying to stick more with hydrating drinks. So actually drinking enough water And if I need a little bit more boost, like looking more like, let's say, Gatorades or things that have more electrolytes in them than just simply just, oh, it's an energy drink, it's a sports drink. But I usually try to stay more focused on staying hydrated at work versus actually eating a proper meal at work, because I'm more focused on, again, losing that weight. So I only maybe do about 300 calories during my work day period, and I work Tuesdays through Fridays. However, when I get home, I usually either have a bit of coffee with protein powder mixed in that, just to give me that second actual boost. Again, more building into an actual, not necessarily muscle building, because I don't actually exercise after work. Usually that's more for what I'm actually doing at work, or when I'm home and actually doing the exercises, lifting the weights, and that sort of a thing. When I am home and I can actually focus on a little bit more analytical, how many push-ups am I doing, how much weight am I getting with the dumbbells, that sort of a thing. However, because we are in a mixed home, we don't really get to say, okay, I'm only sticking to, like, say, 500 calories of, say, chicken breast, and that's it. Whatever the daily meal is that's been planned out by our main chef, my mother, his mother-in-law, usually that's whatever it is. It's everybody gets to decide, okay, this is what we're having throughout the week, and we eat accordingly based on that and adjust it more to our needs. For example, going back into that again, calorie density, the food density, instead of, say, a cup of rice, I've switched over for the most part to rice cauliflower. It's still a vegetable, so there's that plus, but also for more or less the same equivalent of rice, anywhere from 100 to 120 calories, depending on whatever rice you're going for. That same amount of volume for rice cauliflower is about 20 calories. So there is a great difference in that, but it still fills that volume. And to me, right now, unless you're actually just eating it bland, like no seasonings, no juices, no anything like that to mix it in, overall, the only real difference you can tell between rice and cauliflower rice is texture. There is a little bit of texture. It's not as rounded uniform as, say, rice is, but overall, I can't tell the difference. My stomach can't tell the difference, and overall, I feel better, that I feel full, and I only had like half the calories everyone else would be having. And again, I'm also really into the spinach because, again, there's a lot of benefits in the micro and macronutrients with spinach. It is a power food. And however, that being said, I'm not really that much of a chewer. So I do cut back and hand chop spinach a lot more to make it easier for me to chew and to be able to get a lot more volume of spinach condensed down, so you're not just eating all that air and, oh, I only ate, say, 20 calories worth of spinach when serving size is recommended more to, again, like 3 cups. That's feels like a lot, but when you chop it down, it's actually not that much when you go by weight. And so my focus going forward is more so like John, incorporating more fruits and more veggies into my diet, while at the same time keeping track of how much protein I'm getting in to make sure, again, as I'm continuing to lose weight more towards my goal, that I'm also not losing muscle, that I'm just burning fat.
Yeah, it's very important to make sure that you're keeping a good nutrition balance. I know Damien's big tool is he went specifically to a dietitian, and they had a kind of like a plan. They looked at his body, and they came up with a game plan to say, this is what you need to do, and these are the goals we want you to hit in this time frame. So if you're someone that is struggling right now with, saying you're trying to eat healthier, but you're not seeing the results, go see a dietitian. They're going to look exactly at what you're eating, what you're consuming, and then they're going to game plan a pathway for you to succeed, because it could just be that what you're eating is not what you need to be eating in order to get to the path or get to the end game that you want to go through. So that's a big tool that Damien used, and that's why he's had a lot of success. I think it's been about 100 pounds that he's lost since the previous December. So I mean, taps off, because that's incredible. It's an incredible amount of weight loss. So, and that's a big thing. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is a little bit some of the tools that have changed the game. And honestly, the first one I'm going to start with is this right here. Now, yes, I'm a Gator fan, so of course I've decked this out in Gator stuff. But if you do not already have one, I'm going to put this right here to the camera. This is Circle. You may have seen commercials already about it.
Sorry, not sponsored yet.
It's not sponsored, but this has been such a game changer for me in general, because it's just water. You're just drinking water, and it's a little filter cartridge that then has like flavoring. And I've cut soda out completely. Like, I just don't drink soda, and I've never really like been a big soda flavor person. I've definitely always been more into juice, but juice is really, really expensive compared to soda. Soda's actually cheaper than juice, which is kind of really sad. But I mean, that's the same thing. You could go anywhere and say the healthier something is for you, the more expensive it is, right? A hamburger is what, $2, $3? Well, it's not anymore. It's like $5. But right now, salads are like $10. So it used to be that burgers would be like $2, $3, and your salads would be $7. Now it's burgers are $5, $6. That's the value ticket for an item, and now your salads are $10, $11, $12, and that's just crazy. But this thing right here, this thing has changed the game for me, because getting rid of soda was a huge difference maker. And just drinking water is okay. I'm not like saying that water is, it's just bland, right? Just water is water. If you need something that gives you just a little bit something different, Circle has like, I don't know, 15, 20, probably 30 flavorings that you can find something that matches what your flavor taste buds go to. I'm personally pretty simple. I liked mixed berry. I like fruit punch. I like just standard flavors. So that works out for me, because those will always be available. But they have tons of different flavors. They have a mixed berry. They have like dragon fruit, passion fruit, which is a really, really good one. They have like a kiwi blast. They have Honeycrisp apple flavoring, which that's like the best kind of apple. If you've never had a Honeycrisp apple, do yourself a favor and go try one, because they're phenomenal. But even more phenomenal are how this Circle makes water taste just like a Honeycrisp apple. It just baffles me how good it tastes. And once again, like I said earlier, I'm not really into drinks that make things taste chalky. This does not make things taste chalky. It just tastes like deliciousness. And not that I even really need to use that flavoring all too crazy. You can lower the setting to make it less flavorful. You can max out the setting. It's a scale of 1 to 9. And so you can make it however potent that you need it to be to match what your needs are. But just drinking water, I'm able to now drink, let's say 32 ounces, 32 to say about 48 ounces of water a day. And I owe it all to Circle. Like, I don't even know what would have been my replacement option if we didn't go to Walmart and said like, oh look, this is like a Circle flavor, want to try it? And all of a sudden everybody's trying, and like, wow, this is phenomenal, and I absolutely love it. So Circle has been such a big tool. And Damien, he actually has been using his app. I'm gonna let him talk about it, so he could talk about the app that he uses specifically to track his nutrition, and then I'll talk about the app that I use.
So the app I use is called Lose. It's called Lose It. The app, if you're on Apple, I don't know for Android. I'm just stuck with Apple right now. It looks like you stepping on a scale. So whatever interface you're looking at, it looks like an orange scale. It was recommended to me by my doctor, just not so much as again to calculate how much you should be eating or anything like that, but just more so like a food diary, just keeping track of foods. And the reason why I personally prefer it over, say, other apps like, say, MyFitnessPal or any of those other ones is more so, for me, the ease of use to find pretty much anything and everything in its food library, and to also the ease of use of uploading your own homemade recipes, your own homemade foods into it, and being able to incorporate that into that diary to, again, be accountable and say, okay, whatever I'm putting in, this is actually what I did eat, and not skipping out and saying, oh, I only ate, say, 2 cookies when we all know you had the sleeve. But, again, not sponsored by the company or anything like that, but for me, that was a game changer, to be able to keep track, not so much the calories, but just actually seeing how much I actually was eating, and being able to cut back and reevaluate what really was what I was trying to go for when it came to food, because I don't follow any like keto or paleo or vegan or any specific diet. It's more so what I feel comfortable eating and finding healthier, better alternatives to fit those needs, and still wanting to eat it. Because ultimately, if you're stuck with spinach and you don't like spinach, you're gonna be that much more hangrier, and I mean that, hangrier for things you cannot have. I am a very big chocolate guy. Not so much dark chocolate, but just chocolate in general. If it's chocolate milk, if it's a chocolate cake, if it's a chocolate cake shake, call out to Portillo's there for those who understand who those guys are. That is an addiction to me. And to be able to still have that as a treat, but being able to say, okay, I can have that chocolate-filled Oreo after I eat a proper meal. And oftentimes now, not so much a good year ago when I was still very much getting accustomed to actually shifting gears, shifting tracks to what I was wanting to go for, that now I can be able to quote unquote afford that, but it's now, do I really want that? And I say that more on a day-to-day basis, because I was going through sweets, I was going through sodas, I was eating for 4 people, I was drinking sodas for 4 people. But being able to cut back down and focus on just myself and what my body needs were, and being able to get to a point where I can now actually feel comfortable taking a day off and say, yeah, I can definitely have the biggest shake I can have, and I will immediately regret the day after coming in and out of the bathroom and all that. I mean, it's, again, every time you do that to your gut, it's an auto restart to say, okay, is that something I want to go back to? Is that something I really want to go back to? Or was it as I'm not really into alcohol, I don't really drink, so I've never had to deal with hangovers or anything like that, but just that whole idea of getting so plastered that you wake up and just are just sick the next day, having those regrets of, why did I go overboard? That's me whenever I eat too much. I feel that sick the next day. And I actually look forward to going back to my spinach, going back to just having my nice juicy chicken, and just going back to something that's more portioned for humans, and not heart attack grilled in Vegas. But again, just that accountability, just being able to see what you are eating and what you should be eating, but actually looking for things that you want to eat and making that fit what you're wanting to ultimately reach, to ultimately seize your day.
Yeah, and so Damien uses Apple. I am a Samsung guy, so I have
No
the
shame.
yeah, I have the Galaxy Watch, and I wanted to also try to get in on this, like really like hammer down, because on my watch I could just put X calories on there, and then it just gives me what the calorie intake are, but it doesn't give me any nutrition info. And so I was like, okay, I really need to start like seeing what I'm getting my nutrition into. What are my protein levels? What are my vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium levels, potassium, fiber, because you should try to get a good picture of where you're at. And this week, literally, I was looking through the apps that I had on my phone, and I've had this app forever. I just never went into it, but it's the Samsung app. It's the MyFitness there, and it does pretty much the exact same thing. You can actually find whatever meal that you are having, and you can just literally put it in your phone, and then it transfers right to my watch. So now my watch is actually a lot more accurate, and it's then giving me a full nutrition breakdown. We're gonna obviously put a lot of this stuff on the screen so you guys can see what they look like, and then you can see how simple it is to kind of just get a basic overview. Because as you're looking at this information, then you can say, oh, like here, like for this specific one, I noticed that my sodium intake is high. It's in the red side of it. So everything else looks really, really good. Okay, let me see. Now I can actually click on the nutrition info and say, hey, these are the foods that I'm eating that are just providing too much sodium. We need to find an alternative route so we can lower your sodium intake. And then just monitoring that, you're going to just find yourself finding the correct path and solution. Like we said, if you eat really, really good and then you're struggling with still like trying to like it's still a struggle to lose weight, because it could just be something that you're not in the right proportion of what you need to be. And sometimes when you're able to just see it and say, oh, okay, this looks high, this looks low, let me make a little quick adjustment on these areas in particular, and all of a sudden your issues are going to be fixed. So diet is very, very important. It's one of the biggest cornerstones of both Damien and I's weight loss journey. If we didn't have this diet, or really just lifestyle change in food in general, I don't think we would have the success we've had. I was between like 270, 280. I didn't really truly clock myself. I think the official clock in for it was like 272, and that was like at a physical exam, and I had to I was like ashamed when I had that weigh in for that physical exam, and that was like, I need to adjust some things because I don't feel very good. I don't feel very healthy, but now, and then we have our weigh-in, so we'll get to that at the end over here to just show you exactly how far we've come thus far. But I definitely can say for myself, I don't think I would have been able to get this far without having the correct lifestyle change in terms of food intake. And if I didn't make any adjustments there, all these mornings where I'm doing a 2.5 hour workout just wouldn't matter. It's a combination of them, and like I said, we'll go over workout routine and stuff like that next week here for you. But this was just a topic that we both felt was pretty important to talk about this evening, because diet is a huge cornerstone. It's one of the 3 basic concepts of weight control, and that's food intake. So hopefully you found this information informative, and if you have any feedback in terms of things that you guys have personally found successes or you found failures with, let us know. We're not experts by any means, so we definitely appreciate any feedback, advice that you guys can give, things that you want us to say, hey, you guys are doing really good, but have you checked this particular area? We're more than welcome to listen, to hear, and to observe. I mean, we're on a journey to get better. There's absolutely no point in not taking, listening to everybody's suggestion and, taking a deeper look at it, because we're open-minded. We need to stay open-minded. We can't be closed-minded here. You have to look at all avenues. You can't just stick to one thing, because the truth of the matter is everybody is different. There's not going to be one solution, one path for every single person to follow. And people are going to have to take certain routes differently in order to find success. And that's a big key. So we're more than welcome to hear the feedback that you guys have, because it's important to us. And then just like our feedback here to you, we're doing this. We're in the middle of our journey. This is our feedback here to you. So that's the end of this particular segment for like the health topics. I think now we're going to go into really just more like fun stuff. And I guess the first thing I'm going to do, Damien, is I'm going to share this random experience, and I'm just gonna, I don't know, this is bothering me. This is like really bothering me. So I have a friend, I have a person that I follow on X, and he made a post earlier this week, and he was like, I feel bad for people that fill the whole toothbrush with toothpaste, because you don't need that much toothpaste. No. The commercials, they do the whole thing, and that's just to get you to use toothpaste. And you have to be a schmuck to put the whole thing of toothpaste on there. And I'm like, why am I a schmuck? Why am I? Yes, I would thought. I have a toothbrush that, like, I assume that the whole brush of the tooth was for the whole thing of.
In that way, never.
I'm ashamed.
Now, since you brought up toothpaste, of all things, I do have to say this, but on the polar extreme. So, do you have, like, a pet peeve when it comes to toothpaste? For example, for me, you cannot just squeeze the tube. You have to, like, push it up. Or, like, seeing people like roll it up, I'm not about that life. It's just more so just being efficient with it. Yet, I don't know about you, John, but the toothpaste I go for, I'm weird. Right now, I gotta have cinnamon. I cannot go back to mint. So my toothpaste, the most expensive, I've seen it even today, $3 for the biggest tube of cinnamon toothpaste.
Cinnamon, huh?
And yet, I'm like Mr. Scrooge with that. Just, I only need that pea-sized. I do not need any more. And again, it's a decent-sized thing of toothpaste. I've never filled out my toothbrush yet. So that to me sounds wasteful, but again, at the same time, it's like $3, at least with the rate how I'm going at about it, and like total of maybe $6 a year, even in 2024, the rate I'm going with my toothpaste. And again, I'm not exactly stingy of like, oh no, that's a little too much, I gotta put a little bit of that back. I'm not like that. But again, seriously, of all things toothpaste, and you're going full bore.
I was like, the length of the brush was made for a reason, so I was like,
the length of the brush was for surface area in your teeth, not how much toothpaste we can get into this. That's like going into some Illuminati territory there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole point of the commercials, is they show it, that they put the whole toothpaste over the toothbrush, and that's how they got you. Now you're using unnecessary amounts of toothpaste, and now you're wasting money because you have used all. If you've done that, don't feel bad. I did that, and apparently now I'm using half the amount, so now I am in the correct. Not that it really matters, but I mean, money matters, right? So I mean, that's now half the volume of toothpaste that I'm using. But I was reading that tweet and I was like, I feel like an idiot, because logically I've been duped. So I mean, I guess I have whiter teeth, so I'm not like too mad about it, but still, like, I just had to share that with you, because I was just like,
although, since you did bring up teeth, continuing down this path, but slightly changing gears with tracks. So the whole rumors of this upcoming next Jurassic World, like, I've been hearing leaks about the title and going forward, them focusing at least from the leaks I've been hearing, supposed leaks, focusing more on the human element, the human drama element, versus look at dinosaurs on an island. Now, I know you and me, John, how our viewpoints are on them going back to their roots on Michael Crichton and it being more of a techno-thriller / horror. However, I don't think we're going to have anything like that in a blockbuster film anytime soon. Honest opinion, simply because we gotta cater to the kids.
Yeah,
and I can't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, sorry if you're a big film fan, like if it's not completely obvious, I'm a big Jurassic Park fan. I absolutely love, like, this is my favorite franchise, and we're gonna even go a little bit deeper here. I'm gonna give you my top films for Jurassic Park, so you know where I'm level-headed at, and Damien will give his top, films, best to worst here for you, and then so you guys kind of understand where we're at, because you may agree, you may not agree. I don't know. If you don't agree, I'm a little concerned. But then again, I'm into mint, so I'm a psychopath. Maybe you don't agree with me. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here. I think overall, and I think this is actually a tougher decision than it used to be, because I've really watched both of these movies, and these are like 1 and 2 for me. But I am still just a really big fan of The Lost World. Lost World is my favorite Jurassic Park movie. I think it's got it all. I think it's the perfect sequel to the original Jurassic Park. It expands on the storyline that the first one established. It expands, it has a bigger cast, it has more dinosaurs. It actually has the premise of the first movie, that life will find a way, and it really emphasizes that throughout the whole movie. You have baby dinosaurs, like, not just like, dinosaurs being created, but like you actually have like baby dinosaurs in an actual like living environment. Like, Lost World to me was the last time that Jurassic Park dinosaurs were animals and not monsters. I think a lot more of the films after that, they don't feel like dinosaurs, they feel more like movie monsters. Yeah. And I think that's fine. I don't think it's necessarily like a bad thing, but there's just something that was so special about like all the little nuances that they did in The Lost World, and that has to be my favorite Jurassic Park film. And for my second film, I can't deny it. Jurassic World was my second favorite film of the series, and it was really hard because I'm a really big. I really like the first one as well, but Jurassic World was to me like the perfect. Like new generation sequel. It like capped everything that I wanted it to cap. With the creation of the Indominus, it gave you something different, something that wasn't in this like the same direction of say like JP3 or JP2, but it gave you the more Michael Crichton style that when you try to play God, this is what happens. And it's not about if, it's really just about when things fall apart. And that was the premise of Jurassic World, and I think it was beautiful. I think that it was a very, very great film. It had a lot of action. It had a lot of awesome scenes into it. Maybe things that are over the top, but I mean, in Jurassic Park, like, there's nothing that's so over the top in Jurassic World that it didn't exist in The Lost World, and it didn't exist in the original Jurassic Park movie. So I don't know. I guess there's a lot of people out there that like, oh, this is just she's running in heels. You had a kid get zapped by 10,000 volts and somehow magically survive. I don't want to hear.
Or did gymnastics to knock out a 6-foot-tall velociraptor through a window.
You got a throwaway line in the first movie where there's a girl who's just supposedly a hacker, and she just honestly knows how to hack this system that she's never used before on the whim in a high-pressure situation. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, anything that's like nonsense, it all exists in the first film, so... and there's a lot of nonsense in Jurassic World. I think the first scene that comes to mind is, remember when we used to work on Grandpa's old truck? They fixed a 91 Jeep Wrangler, brand new tires.
Chilling in the tropics for decades.
For decades.
And it's the battery that's the whole problem.
But I mean, it's a movie, guys. You just have
movie
to...
magic.
Yeah,
movie
you just
madness.
have to enjoy the movie. Not everything has to be super sophisticated or crazy or, like, well thought out. It just has to be enjoyable. And you can have your little throwaway, like, lines like that as long as it's not, like, your movie isn't based upon that. Number 3, I have Jurassic Park. I mean, there's no way I couldn't, because I think like Jurassic Park is just a phenomenal film. Like, all 3 of these movies, in my opinion, are 10 out of 10 films. And when I say 10 out of 10, I mean, like, these are movies that I've probably watched at least 100 times. And I mean that for all 3 of these movies. There's no doubt in my mind when they're on, like, oh, whatever I'm doing, you know what, maybe I'll just sit down and watch, just because I absolutely love these films. It's when you start to get into the other 3 films that, you know, I'll still watch them, but there's definitely a huge drop-off, you know, whether it's storytelling, whether it's just direction, or just choppiness of the film. I'd have to go, my 4th film is probably JP3.
Wow.
And honestly, I can't believe I'm saying that, because when JP3 first came out, I was just like, this is... And here's my feelings on JP3. If the other 2 Jurassic Park films didn't exist, JP3 is actually a great movie. It just really is a good movie. The problem is Jurassic Park 1 and The Lost World exist, and so when you're actually comparing it, that's where the drop-off happens. Like, Jurassic Park 3 has a lot of great things. It doesn't continue the story. It doesn't really further develop the characters that it established in the previous films. It doesn't raise the stakes in any way. It's almost like a side adventure that is, while fun, it just is not better than the first 2.
John, would you say, just if we were to compare apples to apples, would you consider JP3 more in line with Jurassic Park Trespasser, the video game?
Yeah, exactly.
More like that versus like a continuation. It's just literally just, it's just a side quest, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. It's like, it's not a main quest. It's a side quest movie. And
to be side quest.
By all means, it's a great side quest. I think it's very fun. I think you're going to have a lot of fun watching Jurassic Park 3, especially if you've never watched the other 2. The problem is that when you get to the other 2, if you watch the other 2, then you're just kind of like, it's a good movie, but it's just not better than the other 2. So it just, to me, it's like a 7 out of 10 film, where it's just something that is just a good watch, but it's not something that's special. The first 2 movies were special. And I think that's what Jurassic World really did really well, is that it made a very special movie. And then... this is probably the hardest. The hardest one is going to the bottom 2. I don't know. Like, this is super hard. I was really angry at Fallen Kingdom.
Is it just as hard as the last 2 sequel entries in the Star Wars canon? Is it that hard of differing the 2? Or is it a little easier for you?
No. The Star Wars one is definitely easier. And we'll go over, trust me, we will talk about
that.
We will go over Star Wars, so I'm not going to say anything about it. But Star Wars is definitely easier. I think there's a clear winner and loser between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. But, well, we're going to keep this Jurassic Park here just for this little bit of a nerdy topic. I think I have to go in order. I think it's got to be Dominion and then Fallen Kingdom.
Really?
Yeah, and I think Dominion... it's not necessarily like it's a bad movie by any means. I'd probably have it like a 6 out of 10. Borderline 5 out of 10. Because...
Just a mid?
Yeah, just a mid movie. Like, you probably will... I don't know if I could really say you enjoy it. It does have some good scenes into it. But my problem with Dominion is not the story. It's the execution and the cringiness. It's super cringy. It's really, like, over the top cringy. And you could just watch it and maybe get over the cringiness, but I think it's impossible to ignore how cringy the movie is in terms of, I don't know whoever wrote the movie, but I hope they stay away from a Jurassic Park movie in the future because it just to me was just incredibly cringy.
And that's probably a good thing going into this hopeful sequel that's coming up, that they're bringing back the original screenwriter for JP1 and Lost World. Hopefully, that'll be a good thing going forward.
Yeah, and to be honest, when we talk about the Lotus aspect of it, there's a lot of people that don't like the Lotus aspect of it. I actually think that was actually one of the stronger storylines. My only problem with the Lotus issue is that they decided they didn't.
You mean Locust?
Oh, sorry, I said Lotus. Yeah, Locust issue is that they didn't actually. They didn't go all the way through. They had a chance to actually make this be like some sort of super epic ending to this Jurassic World franchise, and they decided to play it safe, and I don't know why.
Again, for the kids.
Yeah, I mean...
That's really my take on that, is that it was more to focus on for the kids. That this would be more for the kids in a safe manner, bring something up to at least get the adults talking, but ultimately keep it safe, keep it a happy ending for the kids.
No, they should have gone full through. They had the vision
full
there.
Crichton.
They should have gone full Crichton, and they should have actually let the Locust win. They should have just said, the world ends with this, and your next franchise of movies would be kind of like Planet of the Apes kind of style movie, where now the world is truly run by dinosaurs. And they had the opportunity to do it, and they just didn't they didn't do it. They were like, we're gonna find the cure and that's it, we win, yay! And I mean, if it wasn't so cringy, it'd probably be at least better, but there's so much cringy dialogue, there's so much cringy storytelling and writing in the movie. It's just too much for me to rate it anything higher than a 6 out of 10. And then when it comes to Fallen Kingdom, I have huge issues with the story that they try to tell. I feel like I think it's actually ends up being the longest Jurassic Park film that they've done.
I don't remember for sure, I think, but I believe so. Or
it could just be maybe just under where the Lost World was. However, it only feels like it's 2/3 of a story. It just feels like they had two really good things that they wanted to do, and those two things were the only things that were somewhat executed very well. And I think it has too many story issues. It has too much things that don't make sense in the series, that they're like, the audience doesn't remember what happened in the other films. They'll just go with the flow. And if you haven't really seen or really paid attention to how the other films have gone, then you may not have any story issues with it. But I generally don't care about story issues in movies unless it's glaring. And it's super glaring in Fallen Kingdom. And it's really sad because it actually ended up having my two favorite dinosaurs in that, which is the Carnotaurus and the Baryonyx, and they both had actually great scenes in those, but like, scenes don't make a movie. There are scenes that are awesome in movies, but they're not the end all be all. If you want to be one of those movies that is like, Empire Strikes Back, Infinity War, Jaws, the original Jurassic Park. If you want your movie to be in like that category, you need to have a great storyline, a great story to tell. B, you need to have good effects, and then you have to have really, really good dialogue. I think when you think about, cult classic movies, you could check those boxes on every single one of them. I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan. I like pretty much all of his films. I'm a Reservoir Dog is like, in Pulp Fiction, are like my favorite Quentin Tarantino movies, and that's pretty much what he got his fame and fortune off, was just making great movies with great dialogue and a great storyline. And then there wasn't really a need for visual effects because these are just like down-to-earth stories. But I mean, it's the feel of these movies that will forever make them immortal. And if your dialogue is cheap and it's not very wit and well, if your story is choppy and doesn't make sense, or is just really noticeable. It's really noticeable to notice the story flaws and the errors and the omissions of what you're trying to do, or just something that just seems nonsensical, like really nonsensical, even for this universe, then you're gonna have issues. And so, while I think Jurassic World was a fantastic 10 out of 10 film, I just don't think that the sequel movies lived anywhere close to where Jurassic World had set off. And, it's a shame because I think that they wasted some pretty good actors there with Chris Pratt and, gosh, I can't remember her name right now. I know her name was Claire, but her name is escaping me, and she's actually a really good actress as well. Yeah, so now let's talk about two new things that are coming for the Jurassic Park franchise. So I believe the ongoing theory right now is that it's going to be called Jurassic City, right?
That's what I've read about in some leaks, and even then, that's still a tentative thing. And my only concern with that is that we do not need a Jurassic Park Malta City. That's my only concern. We do not need a full-bore takeover from the Fast and Furious in a Jurassic Park movie. However, that being said, I'm not opposed to having a more human story in a Jurassic Park movie. I'm not opposed to that. But, again, my feelings that I want it to be more based on being a techno-thriller like what Michael Crichton initially set up, that it being a cautionary tale beyond just, dinosaurs and humans cannot coexist. But something a little bit more to that whole you never had control, or finding order at the edge of chaos, and just all those elements that ultimately make up an ecosystem, as Michael Crichton put it in the original books, and Ella was able to slip through into at least the first two movies. I think that would work off really well in a human story if they can pull it off right. And again, can't guarantee my dream director or my dream cast with this, but at least I hope they're keeping up with the next step, continuing forward after getting, again, somebody who has already done spectacular work, at least screenwriting, getting us these wonderful gems that are JP1 and The Lost World.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I really wish they would have gone full scale with the Locust, because imagine now your sequel is Planet of the Apes, and now you have this dark theme for your next Jurassic Park franchise, in which, lights are gone, the world as we know it is gone, and now it's just dinosaurs roaming and expanding and once again ruling the planet. I think they had an opportunity that they just wasted, but it's okay.
We can discuss alternate timelines and theories that could have made more in line with our opinion, and again, this is all opinionated, our own opinion on what could have possibly made the sequels a little bit better, in some people's minds redeem JP3 on up a little bit more, or at the very least keep things more in line with Michael Crichton's original vision, despite him only having the original vision of just JP1.
Correct, yeah. And so, whatever happens, I'll still be there. I'm still going to watch this movie, and I'm going to enjoy it the very first time, and then think about it, and then see what I do and do not like about it. I just hope that they make good movies. That's all. I'm not going to want them to make terrible movies, so I hope that they learned what worked and what didn't work with the Jurassic World franchise, and that in the future they make good movies. And another thing that I'm really excited about, as someone who enjoys video games, there's like a new Jurassic Park video game that's coming out, and I think it's based off of like Isla Nublar and the very first film, like the in-between the first film and say Jurassic World, like anywhere in between that. So I'm really excited. It's like a first-person game. I know I've only seen the trailer of it, and of course they're not really showing very much gameplay in it, but from what we did see, the first person looks intense. It feels like it's going to be like one of those survivor horror games, and I'm a huge advocate of really wanting another Dino Crisis game, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ever gonna get that. I'm just praying we can get a Dino Crisis game, because with all the Resident Evil remakes that they've done and the level of success that they've had with those, I cannot imagine why a Dino Crisis remake would not be successful. Like, I just can't imagine it would not be. It would just, I know that there is a basis, there is a clientele for this, and
I mean, I'm saying we're part of that clientele. I'm not trying to step on your toes, but I'm down for that.
for sure. Like, I mean, the thing is that there's no competition for it. What other company is making any dinosaur game that's actually worth playing? Exoprimal, where they have dinosaurs falling out of a portal? That just seems like nonsense.
Well, I mean, there is ARK. There are park simulator games, but they're simulators, or they're just open world. They're not really like thrillers or survival horrors.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
Now, the only real glimmer of worry, at least on my part, with this new Jurassic Park game is that it is rated T. So maybe not so much on being quite as graphic as far as the dinosaur violence on eating you if you get caught or anything like that. But that being said, I would definitely be down for more suspense. Like, not necessarily go full bore, like strenuous suspense like, say, Alien Isolation, but more in line with those vibes where, okay, you're sneaking through the jungle, you can hear the thudding footsteps through the ground of the Tyrannosaurus coming after you, and you just, again, the whole, you gotta be quiet, you gotta stay still, like, just that suspense, even if it's not as, again, bloody, as gory if you get eaten. I mean, I'm still down to see myself get eaten if I screw up, because I screw up. But again, I want more of that suspense, that dread, that thriller aspect.
Yeah, and when it comes to video games, and I'm going to give you just a few of my favorite games that I've played, and these are the games that I like a Jurassic Park game to be themed around, like, in terms of like gameplay and but really more so like storytelling. And the first one that comes to mind is Last of Us. I think that if you're talking about a Jurassic Park survival game in the style of like a Last of Us, that's very heavy on your story, and then you're going to have super intense moments when you're talking about all these dinosaurs that they do. You have so much potential.
Even the human element. Dodson, we've got Dodson here. Make him scary, or his agent scary, whoever you want to be your human villain scary. Make him
so
as much of a threat to you in this instance as these animals.
I think another game to me that comes to mind, I said it earlier, Resident Evil. And maybe that's because it's more of, I'm thinking of like Dino Crisis, but if you've played any of the new Resident Evil remakes, whether it's, Resident Evil Resident Evil Remake 2, which was really successful. I know some people had issues with Remake 3, and I was fine with that. I actually really enjoyed that. And then obviously Resident Evil 4 Remake has just blown away the internet, to be completely honest. It's phenomenal. It's just as amazing as it originally was back when it was on the GameCube, which was awesome. It was just great to play that game again. So, getting a JP game that's like that, third person over the shoulder, that would be pretty sick. And I think there's just so much room and potential market for a game like that I hope that the Survivor game is successful, because it just means if it's successful, that means that you may branch out to other sides of things, and that's what I'd really hope for. I hope that this is a nice survival game that gives you a lot of intense moments. I don't mind the T rating, to be honest. It just means that there's not going to be blood involved, and that's okay. I don't need blood.
As much.
Yeah, or as much. Well, I don't think they're allowed to have blood in any T rated game. So if it's T rating, no blood. And the only reason why I know that is because Final Fantasy VII, they took out some of the blood scenes on there and they replaced it with like this like purple goo. And that was just to get to the T rating, because they could not have blood. If they showed blood, like in that particular scene, and then it would have to jump into an M rating, and so that's just like video game laws and industry stuff. So we don't control that as consumers. They do, right? And they did that for Final Fantasy 16. They said, no, we want blood. We're giving you blood. And so maybe it's the same deal. You have a T-rated Jurassic Park game that's successful, and then down the line, now you're going to have this, M-rated Jurassic Park or Jurassic World or Jurassic City game, whatever it may be, that you'll get to experience, and that should be pretty fun. But then moving on over here, I think Damien has not seen this movie, but we got to talk about this because this movie is a 10 out of 10 movie. And if you haven't already seen it, you need to stop what you're doing. Stop. I mean, look at me right now. Eye contact. This is important. This is focus. You need to go see Dune 2. There's no doubt about it.
I'm just waiting to be able to get time to see that. I was so brokenhearted hearing that it got postponed a few months, I guess due to the actors' strike last year.
The writer's strike.
There were some actors that also went on strike. It was kind of a co-op with that. But at least from what I've been hearing all the buzz that it's definitely worth the wait, then that gives me hope.
Yeah, and this is not, I'm being dead serious right now. You need to stop whatever you're doing and go get your tickets for this. And don't even go cheap on your tickets. I'm like the advocate of going cheap on things. Don't go cheap on this. Buy the premium seats. Make sure you're getting the theater with the Dolby Atmos sound system. Make sure you're getting the luxury seats. This is one of the movies that you're going to watch, and it is one of those top 10 of all time movies. Like, this is going to be in the same amazingness as The Dark Knight, as Infinity War, as in Endgame. Like, this movie is so phenomenal. It's such a film. And I don't know. I'm going to go back to this. I don't care how it happens. We need to get, like, this team that made this movie needs to make a Star Wars movie. It just has to be. So. Yeah, it's so good. Like, I have a buddy who's seen it like 4 or 5 times at this point right now, and I'm kind of jealous. I have a 6-month-old, so I can't just go out and see it as many times as I want, or else I definitely would be.
At and under 5, and having to pay bills and all that, so I can completely understand that. But at least I have read the book, at least the first book.
This is so good.
So at least understand where they're going. It's just seeing the execution, especially from what I've seen with part 1.
Yeah, and part 1 to me was like a good 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I haven't really settled on where I have it on this. Dune 2 is a 10 out of 10 film. Like, it will blow you a mind. And this is a cinematic movie. You need to see this in the theaters. You need to get the full experience. Order the biggest tub of popcorn you can. Get the slushie. Eat the hot dog. Yes, save your calories for that. Like, this is your cheat day. And go enjoy this movie. Pick a Saturday, Sunday. Go watch this movie. It is. I'm just blown away. And make sure to do that before, obviously, Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire comes out, because then that's going to take all your big auditorium seating. So do it before that movie comes out, because you need to get the full experience of Dune.
I'm working on it.
It's so phenomenal. I just cannot stress it enough. It is a 10 out of 10 film, guys. Go book your tickets immediately. Right, look at me. Book your tickets now. Just stop. Pause the thing. Go book your tickets. You're not going to regret the movie.
Well, I guess on that note, we probably ought to wrap up so we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're going to go ahead. I have our handy little dandy notebook over here, and we're going to go over our final numbers. So, Monday through Friday is what we're looking at over here. We're doing 4 basic categories here. We're doing steps, average calorie intake for the week, total calories burned, and then wrapping it up, we have our weight progression, right? So where are we at, where we were a week ago, and seeing what the difference is, seeing the results of all our hard work. So let's go ahead and break this down here for you. So kind of a little bit of a competition here. Let's see who gets the gold stars. So first thing we have is steps. So Damien's steps for the week was 89,744 steps. That's Monday through Friday, March 11th through the 15th. That's incredible. That's an incredible amount of steps. Taps off to you. I will say, those numbers, not beating mine. I actually had 133,548, and that's actually due to a huge Friday. Most of the week, I averaged a little bit over 20,000 steps. Friday, I was like at 35,000. I had a lot of steps on that day, so I was really able to chow down on making sure that those steps were taken and got a lot of good work out of it. All right, average calories. Let's see. So I had 1,664 calories average per day. So, some days I was at 1,760. Other days I was at 1,550. All the average, 1,664. Damien came in at 1,618. He gets the gold star there. And, we're going to stay consistent on that. So we want to see what our numbers will look like. And this is only week 2. So we'll see how well we do in future weeks. Now it comes down to the total calories burned. So this is a combination of what our watches are telling us versus, what we're eating, what we're burning, what we're exercising with. And here I had 20,348 calories burned. Obviously, a big portion of this does help because I took a lot more steps. And then Damien had 16,898 calories, which is still a phenomenal number. Just being anywhere near these numbers, they're part of the reason why we're able to have a lot of success in what we do. So,
and we'll go more into that next week.
And we'll go more into that next week when we talk about exercise, because that is another thing. All right, and then finally, now we get to talk about the most important thing.
I don't know if it's the most important, but it's definitely the most brownie points.
Yeah, it's definitely the most brownie points. And so we get to talk about our weight. So with that here, last week I checked in at 218 pounds. This week I checked in at 214 pounds. That is a net loss of around 4 pounds, which is more than I'd like to lose in 1 week. I want to try to keep it closer to maybe 1 to 2 pounds lost. I think this week was it just ended up being a culmination of how much I worked out and, the average calorie intake. So my body is definitely going through a little bit of a change. We'll see where I'm at next week. But still, 4 pounds, you got to be happy with progress. And progress is progress. And I'm very excited to be under 214. Since I've lived in Utah, I have never been 214 pounds. So this is just a huge accomplishment for me. And I am just that much closer, guys. I have a goal to get under 200 pounds, and then I will get my first tattoo. And definitely will live stream that, or at least send you a video of me getting a tattoo. Once I hit that goal, I'll schedule the appointment. So follow for that if you're interested in watching that, because I've heard they hurt. And then, so I hear. Damien, it was last week at 196. He's definitely a lot more consistent. He lost 1 pound and is now at 195. And that is a healthy amount of weight to lose in a week. You want to lose, maybe half to 1 pound a week. If you are maybe you're losing a little bit more, maybe 2 pounds is not too bad. When you're losing a little bit too much weight, it can be a little concerned. So I might have to...
Too much too fast is very concerning. So
yeah, too much too fast is very concerning. So 4 pounds is good, but 1 pound is right about where you want to be. Now, some of that can be that he's already under that 200-pound limit, so it's a little bit harder to burn off that extra pound, where I have excess weight to burn, so maybe that's really the difference there. But regardless, this week we both won. We are less than what we weighed last week, and we credit it to all the hard work that we've done here. Whether it's the steps that we've taken, the calorie average that we've averaged, or the amount of calories that we were able to burn, this is the culmination of our success. So we're going to check back next week here and see where our numbers look at again and gain more progress. And then please, as we wrap up the show here, let us know how you guys are doing. So much of this comes down to the support system, right? If we didn't have each other to support, this journey would be so much harder. But because we have each other, we're able to do this together, and we're able to piggyback off of each other's energy. If I need a pick-me-up, Damien is there. If Damien needs a pick-me-up, I'm there for him. And together, we're just like two irons. Iron strengthens iron, right? That's our kind of like goal here, and that's what we can be here for you, and what we want you guys to be here for us. So share your experiences. Let us know where you guys are at. And if there's any, once again, like tidbits or any advice that you want to give, or if there's anything that you need personal assistance with, hit us up. Let us know. We definitely want to invite you guys to be engaging with us here, because this is not just Damien and I's journey. This is our journey. This is our time to seize the day, and that is why our channel is called The Day Is Ours. We are making every day that we're just making the most opportunity out of every day. And that involves not just him, not just me, it involves you as well. So we thank you for your guys' support. And with that here, I guess might as well go ahead and say, please hit that like and subscribe button, follow the videos.
Share with a friend.
Yeah, share with a friend. Obviously, even if you are not in a position where you are unhealthy, maybe you know somebody who would like to follow the channel because they need something to lean on to get better themselves. And sometimes just that one little recommendation goes a long way, and it helps us out here as well. And they could start at any point in time at the journey. We're going to make these videos. These videos will be available to everyone, so they can see where we're at the very first video that we posted, and hopefully a year from now, as we're making these videos, it's going to look crazy different, and I can't wait to actually look back at that.
And with that, the day is ours, and we'll see you next time.
All right, this is Johnny Utah out. You guys take care and have a